Are you looking for a faster video? Well, today it's a live stream, and I know you're probably looking for a really nice and tidy, edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing! Hello, how's it going? Happy Thursday. It feels really strange that it's Thursday. I feel like we're always cutting on Wednesdays. I'm so thrown off. I can't believe tomorrow's Friday. It's crazy. I'm used to our schedule. Okay, so I feel like this is going to be more of a modify hack pattern thing than the pattern we're using. And my apologies to Love Notions. But I do think this is going to be kind of a really useful garment, and I think that anyone can hack this pattern into what we're going to do, into this like ubiquitous fleece pullover. So I think it'll be good. So hi Malin, hi Hannah, hi Gregory, welcome. Hi Delta, how's it going? Yeah, so I am featuring this pattern here, and I'm turning it into this. So I know it's a big change. I don't even know what to say about that, but this is what we're gonna do. So I have this old Patagonia from my husband. It just doesn't, it's seen its day already. Hi Paul, how's it going? Welcome back. I'm like, this looks great. I don't know what's wrong with it, but he says it's really stretched out along the hem, and I don't know. I'm having suspicions of why this doesn't work. He gave it to my daughter and she doesn't want it anymore, and I think it's because she used it as a cat bed. But it's fine. It's great. Oh, there's a stain on it, I guess. Maybe that's why. I don't know. So I am focusing on making this into this kind of ubiquitous, quarter zip fleece pullover, and I am using a fleece. It's quite a large piece of fabric right here. Do you see the flaw that I just discovered on my fabric though? It's really apparent on that camera. I didn't see it, and then all of a sudden the light shifted. Do you guys see it? Look at that. It's down the entire length of my fabric, and I didn't notice it till now. I did unpack it, I did look it over, but I think it's such a gigantic piece of fabric, I didn't see it. I'm so upset that I just noticed this while I was refolding it. I don't even know what to do, because, yeah. Hi Libby, hi Lynn. So I ordered this from a outdoor fabric company in Colorado that I've never used before, and I know a lot of folks use them. And I was really disappointed by the shipping charge, because I've shipped thousands and thousands of packages, and I'm not exaggerating, like thousands. I've spent probably, I don't know, almost $100,000 in shipping fees. Like it adds up quick. Like I'm not a novice. So when I saw the shipping charge for this, I was like, what the heck, that's less than 3 pounds. We're in the same shipping region. Maybe the one next to it wasn't very far. It should have been maybe $12 to ship, and I think it was almost 30. And they charged a shipping fee. So I reached out to them and I said, hey, is this correct? You know, like, what's up with this? And they never replied. I needed the fabric. I couldn't find anything else that there was enough of that fit the bill for this project that my husband liked. Time was running out. I did find other things that were in Canada, but it would have been like just a lot more to ship it. If I were buying a few things, it would have been worth it. And they never replied. And now that I've noticed this flaw, I'm going to call them out because I'm not okay with that. That's ridiculous. So, hi, Martina. Hi, Sydney. So, I'm not sure what to do, except I'm just going to go forward because I have enough fabric to do the project, even though it's a major flaw. And I don't want it to go to them and it just get thrown away or something. You know, it's here. It has its carbon footprint to my office. And here we are. We're live. So I don't know what else to do. So yeah, I'm just going to make the best of it and tell them and send them a strongly worded letter. What else do you do? So we're moving on. So anyway, so what doesn't this pattern have? So I'm using this Love Notions North Star pullover. A couple of folks had messaged me when I was looking for menswear garment ideas, and I don't think I got a single suggestion or recommendation from a guy. But I did get some recommendations from gals who were like, oh, I made this for someone in my life, or and I really like it. Some of them had made things for them in menswear. And so this one came up, I think 3 times. So I was like, all right, let's do it. This is totally something my husband was like. I actually kind of didn't really compute the details of this. And then I was like, wow, he's not going to go for this kangaroo pocket. That is a big fat nope for him. But I thought, okay, no problem. I can remove that, you know, and then it kind of like went down that path of like, well, what would I want it to be? So here we are. This is what we're going to do. We're just going to do this straight up thing. So there's no wristbands, no waistband, no chest seam. This zipper here would be a lot easier to sew, and we can talk about that than what I'm going to be doing. I think that I feel really comfortable doing this really hacked version of this, mainly because I feel like there's going to be a lot of people really interested in this. And I'm even thinking about going to the store today and getting a few extra zippers and doing a few different versions. I wouldn't mind experimenting with this and kind of figuring out the best method to do this with the machines that we all have available to us. Because sewing it this way, I actually designed something like this once with this like little... it's like a neck protector from the zipper. And I can't remember, when I saw this, I was like, oh, I did this once on a garment. Like when I worked somewhere, like not here on So-So. And I was checking out how they sewed this, and it's pretty clever. The ribbon here is to add some, stiffener and stability to this, like when you're not going to use interfacing or something. So I think that like I could imitate this. But doing this right here, this stitch right here, this is the thing I'm like, I don't know. My machine, my industrial can sew through this kind of thickness. This is the seam, this is the top stitch. And then, there's obviously top stitch there as well. But I'm going to be honest, it wouldn't be great. It wouldn't look great. And so I think with the home machine, I think you're going to struggle as well. So could we get something that looks a little more ready to wear? With the machines we have, and I think that's kind of what I want to explore. So I think you guys would probably be down for something like that, and this would be totally something I would have been hired to do. So I think it'll be fun. So we're going to focus on that with this project, and I really, really apologize if someone's here for a literal tutorial on the North Star pullover. I have sewn these elements on other garments, and I know that doesn't help you out much, but please, reach out to me. And, if there's a lot of people that are like, I really wanted that, maybe I'll consider sewing it another time, maybe for myself. So, all right. Oh, cool, Lynn. Oh, what's wrong with the fabric? Check it out. I just noticed this flaw running along the entire length of it. This is like a camel color. See the face cam? It's more of like a camel color. And those lines are yellow. It got stuck in something. So I've been stuck on a similar project for over 2 years because I don't know exactly it's so. Oh, right, Lynn. Yeah, I think that really helps, right? Knowing what it's supposed to look like, that's where I think a lot of pattern instructions for us as home sewists, that's where I really feel like a lot of patterns fail big time. Like, I understand they don't want to give you too much information because sometimes that can be a little confusing. Maybe it's a space issue in their instructions. Maybe it's too much interpretation. I don't know. But honestly, that's what I'm looking for. I don't really look at the written instructions, and that's where I usually get into trouble with, when I'm sewing in front of you guys, because I'm looking at the sketches. I want to know what's it supposed to look like, because I know how to get there if I see what the finished result. And I think that really helps, because if you're like, oh, if I'm doing this, that's what's going to happen? Great, now I know what to expect. Now I know if I'm doing it right or wrong. That's the only two things we're wondering when we're sitting there sewing, right? Okay, now I know what it's supposed to look like. Now I know if it's going to be wrong. And I don't think a lot of sewing instructions are geared towards that way of thinking. So I think that this will be really fun and kind of coming up with a few different ways to make this look really polished, not making it hard to sew, and keeping it really simple, because you can really overcomplicate this kind of thing. We don't have a lot of this machinery. Straight up, you guys. You could try and do this at home, and you can succeed, but the amount of effort you're going to put into doing it, it's just not worth it, in my opinion. I think that that's just a little overboard. Why not just buy one or get a used one of these, So that's my personal feeling about it. Yeah. Yeah. You like the fabric line? Yeah, and that helps reduce bulk. It'll make it easier in your sewing machine if you just use kind of a thinner fabric for the lining. It can also, some of these on the outers cannot be as soft against the skin as you think they are, and then you put it against you and you're like, oh. Especially a company like Patagonia. I actually got offered a job here once, by the way, I'm proud to say. A place like Patagonia, who is famous for using recycled materials in their fabric composition, it feels really soft to the hand, but once you put it against your neck or your forearm, you notice like, oh, okay, there is a prickle to that. And so you got to make sure that that prickle is staying to the outer of the garment, and it helps a lot. Shadon, how's it going? Hi, Shannon. Melanzana. Melanzana. I have never heard of that, Shannon. What is that? It has your little flappy guard up the top if I can't see the bottom of the hill. Wait. Hi, Tammy. How's it going? Yeah, this little flappy thing. That's actually not too hard to sew. I mean, you pull it apart here. You can see that this is how it went in, right? And then they're enclosing all that seam allowance in here. We could probably add something like this. My husband likes those little details. As long as we can get something nice and thin that our machine's not going to get hung up on, right? That matches, so we're not changing thread color and stuff. I really like the way they did these, the binding. It's absolutely not stretchable. Look at that. No stretch whatsoever. So that's not a plus. But I do really like the way they sewed it, because what they did was they sewed it right sides together here on the outer. So they lined it up here along this edge. Their fabric was sitting here like this. Here. I just threw this away so I know it's here. They lined this up to the raw edge, they sewed it around, and then they turned it to the inside while allowing the seam allowance out, just like your binding. But it's laying flat in here, and then they cover stitched it, and the cover stitch is up here. They didn't worry about landing on the binding at all. They were just purposely putting it off to the side. I don't know why it doesn't stretch, except it's the stitching that's not stretching. The binding would, and so would this. The stitching is what's fixing it. And I'm not sure why they opted for that. You never know. Is that a tricot? It could be. Oh, there's sweatshirts here. Oh, okay. Oh, they have a proprietary waffle top. Well, how long have they been around? Because this fabric right here, like I remember when Polar Fleece came out with this type of grid fabric. They could totally have a proprietary fabric, but it's been around for a bit. Oh, no internet. Ah, sorry, Dar. I feel your pain on that. That's how my house is. So, okay, let's see. Let me miss any I'm just looking at all the chat, make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, so let's get to some of these pattern adjustments that we're going to do, all right? Ooh, I dread going to the fabric store to get some zippers. Like dread. Hey, Hannah, how's it going? Okay, so let's tone down the brightness while we do some pattern work here. This is not going to be hard pattern work at all. Like it's going to be some of your simplest probably. What do I want to do here? Nope, wrong way. Sorry. Is that better? Is that too dark? All right, I'll use a Sharpie so you can see whatever I'm doing, and I'll explain what you're looking at as well. Hi, Nicole. All right, so I am using very few of the pattern pieces, and you can see these are the pages that you would print out. So you're going to need, let's see, I think that was 30, 31. Here, let's do it this way. It was like this. Right? All right. Okay, so you're going to need 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 24, 25. Oh, 22, 23. Okay, wait. Sorry. Let me tell you again, just in case. You need pages 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. You might need 26. Sorry. I think I said that one though. 35, 37, 38, 43, 44. But you can see this in the, they lay it all out on here. I'm just trying to save you some paper. I printed just everything for the collared version, and I have about 6 pages I didn't use. So if you're open to not printing extra, just look at this little schematic here. You need everything in these 2 pink boxes here, and you need only these 4 pages right here in this lower pink box here. So I know folks are pretty concerned about printing pages because now that the printers are all subscription based. Unless you're having it PDF printed, then you're not going to pretty much be able to say that because it's just going to be on like probably 2 pages and you're going to get everything. So what? Really, Libby? You think so? By tomorrow? Okay, I mean, I'll try. There, okay. Ooh. I'm like, do I take a chance? I guess if it doesn't get here, I just go to the store tomorrow. But I have a friend coming, and I haven't seen a friend in like years. I'm seeing a friend tomorrow, you guys, who she was diagnosed with breast cancer stage 4 while she was nursing her 5-month-old. A month before I moved here. Or no, it was a couple months before I moved here. So that became her whole life focus. She beat it. This was 10 years ago. And then it came back last summer. And she was given a year to live last September. And she's worked really hard this past year. And she's feeling really good. And so she's taking this whole month to do this big trip with just her and her 2 kids. And we're at the beginning of it. So they're like camping right now. And now they're heading to Tahoe. So it's kind of cool to see her and to be in the presence of someone, you know, that has gone through that and is a survivor. She's a pretty awesome person. She's the person that when my husband had his hip replacement in Belgium, and my daughter was 14 months old, we brought her along to help me because he was separate from us. And she helped me take care of Cricket because it was just a lot of work, you know. And Cricket had a really serious gluten allergy temporarily while we were traveling. It was such a pain because we couldn't read the ingredients. Everything was in Flemish. And she was so hilarious, like at the end of the trip, I promise this isn't a long Great Aunt Tessie story. At the end of my friend didn't have kids, by the way, at this time, but she had been a nanny several times throughout her life. She has a twin sister too, who's pretty amazing. And they both ended up owning ice cream shops, like with handmade ice cream. Amazing. Some of the best ice cream I've ever had. It is the best ice cream I've ever had in my life. So my friend, when at the end of the trip, like a few weeks after we got home, she gave my husband and I this little photo album. She loved taking photos. And it was this photo album of like just photos of the trip. I'm laughing because this lady took pictures of our kid, like 14 months old. And I'd be like, Nicole, did you leave her at that fountain and then cross the street and take a picture from there? And she'd be like, yeah. This is a woman who didn't have kids at the time. And I was like, that's good to know. You know, like literally it was pictures of our kid standing by herself in this like huge busy plaza all by herself with my friend across a busy street taking pictures of her. You know, like several things like that in like funny little spots like next to a statue or something. I will never forget it. And I remember like every time we'd get in the car with her, she'd be like, oh, let's free up those little tootsies. And she'd take the shoes and socks off of Cricket. Everybody who has kids knows, don't ever take the shoes and socks off the kid if you're going somewhere because it takes you an hour to get them back on. And I'd be like, no, don't do that. And she'd be like, oh, but her little feet need to relax and spread out. I'm like, they're spread out and relaxed all the time. We're in the car going somewhere. They need to be on because you can't be barefoot at the park. And once she had her kid, that was the first thing I did. I would rip the shoes and socks off her kid every single time. That was the most malicious thing I ever did. So, and she was like, all right, I get it now. So anyway, I get to see her tomorrow, which is pretty cool. So I got to fit in the fabric store thing. We'll do our best. All right, we have our pattern pieces. We have our cursed fabric here. I'm going to use a see-through ruler. Why do they all have a pin on them? Hate that. So I took some measurements off of a couple of shirts. Funnily, my husband gave me a shirt. He's like, I love the way this one fits. And I measured it. I measured the few things that I really like when I'm measuring to compare from an existing garment to one I'm about to sew. Is I like the chest. Depends on what the garment is, obviously. But for this one right here, I'm looking for chest, the high point at shoulder, which means that I want the measurement from the top of the shoulder down to the finished hem. I want that overall length measurement. You don't do it on the shoulder seam. You lay the fabric or the pattern flat. If you do it at the shoulder seam, that's fine. Just remember that that's what you did. And note, like, okay, well, was this shoulder seam, you know, I don't want to draw my pattern, but I'm going to. So was the shoulder seam way far forward, you know, like right here? You got to note that because that doesn't tell you the finished overall length of the garment very accurately. Now, why don't we do it from the center front neck or the center back neck? That point right there can fluctuate pretty widely on garment to garment. So say you're like, well, I really love the way this t-shirt fits me. And it's a V-neck, right? You wouldn't want to measure the length of that V-neck. That's a very obvious example, but I'm just trying to demonstrate that if you started laying down all your garments and you needed to compare the length, the neckline is probably going to move up and down about 1 inch to 2 inches, depending on the style of the neckline, right? So the high pointed shoulder, because this is where the garment is hanging from, it is one of the measurements I like to call a 0-0 measurement, meaning like this is, you know, you can't dispute the way the garment if it hangs from here. You can dispute where this seam goes. This shoulder seam can go forward, backward. You could have two shoulder seams, right? Like in a yoke or something, or maybe a contrast band or whatever. So I like to lay the garment flat, figure out my high pointed shoulder, and then that will tell me my length. All right. So the other one I like is an across shoulder measurement, which means that we're going from point to point. Now, again, you just want to note in your head, like, did I do it to the seam? I usually do, unless it's a drop shoulder. So this seam can fluctuate, right? You're just trying to get a gauge of how it measures across the shoulders. And that measurement is one of my favorites for men, women, whatever. It doesn't matter. That is just a really important measurement. Sleeve length. So sleeve length is another weird one where you're going to measure it from the center back neck down to the hem of the sleeve. And if you cannot find the center back, fold it in half and then find it. And you want to close anything up. This stuff, it can fluctuate so minutely. And if you think, oh, well, it doesn't fluctuate that much. Remember then, if it doesn't fluctuate very much, it might mean that a 1/4 inch is a big difference in what you're talking about. So I, flatten it all out, and I see in here, here's my center back right there. You can even fold it the other way, but then you're going across the bulk of this collar. Here's my center back neck right there. And I measure along that center back neck across. See that? Oh, this is the shoulder seam. I mean the yoke seam, sorry. The neckline up there. I don't know why I was thinking that was the... So yeah, so you're just going to do something like that is your sleeve length, which looks really weird on this thing, right? And so yeah, and then the across shoulder, right? You can't really even tell on this one. So what do? When you don't have a sleeve seam here, you're going to have to do your best. You can see some armholes here. You can also measure the person. There's not really ease added to an across shoulder measurement. It's a pretty fixed thing. Maybe, it doesn't even grade very much. It only grades a 1/4 inch. So grading is the difference between sizes. So yeah, you're going to have to find where you think this shoulder is. And it's going to come up from here, right? Somewhere like that. All right. All right, so those are the primary ones. Now the other ones that you might want are a hem circumference, a sleeve hem circumference, maybe a bicep circumference, depending what you're doing. And that's kind of going to give you all your landmarks for this garment. So I figured those out for my husband here. I have them written down here, and that'll be my guide. One thing I did was I printed out the medium only. This pattern has layers. I turned off all the layers I didn't want, and I only printed out the size that I wanted. Kind of wish I had printed out a couple of them, because as I'm looking at this and hearing what my husband said this morning about how he likes the fit of one of these and doesn't like the fit of this one, I laid them on top of each other and they're identical, okay? So where does that leave me? That leaves me thinking, all right, the thing he really likes is a lightweight knit. It's like literally sweater knit, and it's a very lightweight, like a cashmere sweater or something like that. And I was like, well, this isn't apples to apples. He went to get a wool 1/4 zip pullover that he had bought when we were on a trip in New Zealand. And I was like, oh yeah, that thing's perfect. That's great. It's good company. You like the fit of that. But he couldn't find it. It's packed away for winter. He could find this one. He's like, this one too, I really like the fit. I was like, that's a knitted sweater. But it still is great to kind of see what he thinks that he likes. And this fabric here is definitely not going to have the same kind of give as that knit sweater does. And it's bulkier, right? It's a lot bulkier. Sorry, I put the sweater away somewhere. So that tells me that, all right, my fleece that I bought for him is a little bit more on the side of this thing. So maybe I should go a little bigger. But the other thing is he doesn't like things too bulky or big on him. I understand that feeling too. It makes you feel kind of like frumpy and kind of gets you hung up on things. So you got to find that balance. Like, does this person like things kind of close? Do they like things kind of relaxed. When you're talking about things that don't stretch a whole lot, you got to be really careful that it's going to still be comfortable if it's bulky. Okay, so just think about these things, and you're going to have to do your best to decide which route you're going to go. All right, so we have our pattern pieces here, and you know, if you want to compare your measurements, this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to just temporarily tape this lower pattern piece here of the front. I'm going to temporarily tape it to the upper front. It's a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So that means I'm going to draw a 3/4 inch parallel line to this seam allowance, because here is the 3/8 mark, right? And if I want to line up, you know, the 3/8 mark, the seam line, on top of that, right there, that means that this cut line goes up to here, and that's 3/4 inch in. So I just draw a 3/4 inch parallel line. It makes it faster. And then I have some removable tape, so I'm going to tape it on here. All right, so now we have our front and we have our back. This isn't how our pattern pieces are going to end up. And you want to take this lower piece and move it to the side seam. This piece is on the fold, this piece isn't, and it is sticking out. You see that right there? That 3/8 of an inch seam allowance because of the zipper. Which is kind of interesting, because you would need it. Usually this isn't sticking out as much, because once you put the zipper in, the width of the zipper needs to actually be there, like right here, see? There's the width of the zipper. So the seam line's right here. So usually, yeah, this would be like backed off about 1/4 inch, and it'd only be sticking out about 1/8. Sometimes they're about the same. So, all right. So now let's compare our measurements that we got off of our finished garment that we're kind of comparing it to, because now we want to compare apples to apples. So when you go to figure out your high point at shoulder, you're going to line these up at the underarm, okay? You're going to take your front and your back and line it up. I don't think I have any paper that you can kind of stick these together, so we're just going to be really careful. So now we're going to look at our shoulder line. Well, now that's interesting. The shoulders are a little bit of a different angle to each other. I sometimes see this and I don't really know what to think of it. Mine are always parallel. Because what happens is, I don't really know what to think of this. What you want is, say that you're figuring out what the finished length of this garment is going to be, and you're comparing this high point at shoulder measurement. Mine says HPS, and it's 25 inches. And I need to figure out, well, where is this point up here? Because what if this shoulder line was down here, right? Then if this was actually the shoulder line down here, you would need to put this pattern piece, the back, just kind of tape it together just like we did down here on the chest seam. And then maybe what happens is like this, you know, once you have this all said and done, this is your high pointed shoulder right here, and you're going to mark it from the neckline at the seam. So if this is a 3/8 inch seam around the neck, this is your point that you're starting at. So that's what we're trying to figure out. In other words, you can't just take the front or the back and measure at the shoulder seam to find your high point at shoulder marking point. Sometimes it is that. Like in the case of this shirt, it pretty much is that, because the shoulder slope is a little bit odd. So here is the front and here is the back. That's a little weird. You don't usually see the front going to the back, but it's not that it's wrong. I sometimes see this, and it's a style of pattern drafting. I ran across a pattern drafter who trained me on this software, and he loved this kind of shoulder. And I never really understood exactly why it was worth the effort to do it, because I experimented with it. And so here's the back and here's the front. So basically they're crossing over, and it means that your shoulder is going from the front to the back like that. I'm exaggerating, like this. kind of at an angle over your shoulder. And there's lots of things you can kind of assume that it would do, but it doesn't. And so I'm kind of surprised to see it here. I don't know. I don't really know what to say about it. It's no big deal. So we're just gonna not worry about it. I'm a little worried about it. I will say. So let's pretend like the shoulder looks like this. Right? Here is your front. That caught me off guard. See, I'm always doing these without looking ahead so that you can kind of be in the same boat as me. Okay, here's the back shoulder, so you can kind of see it on the screen, right? So if this is the finished shoulder seam of the back, right, we're going to draw our 3/8 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to circle that juncture there. And we have it on the front here, right there. And now line up our underarm here. I mean, how close are they? They're pretty close in this case. Kind of. They're right there. You can kind of split the difference because once these seams meet, boy, it's kind of confusing though. Right, we can pretend like these are sewn together. And then you pull, well, this case it's gonna push. You're gonna find that little spot right there. I'm really sorry, this is kind of a bad example of this because of this weird shoulder slope thing, but I think you know what I mean. So just make sure that you find the seam. And then if this right here, the fold is your high pointed shoulder, measure from there and see what your length is. That's all I'm trying to get. I wish I could have been Emily, but you know, in the late 80s, they didn't tell gals that there's this whole engineering field. I would have loved that. All right, and so now let's look at it. 18, 7, so 25 right here. This is where my husband's shirt length is that he really likes. That's absolutely perfect because it leaves me a 3/4 of an inch hem. That's great. I don't have to do anything with the hem, but just remember if you need to add or shorten that you need your seam allowance or your hem allowance that you're preferring, or if you're going to do the waistband, make sure you include that waistband amount in your overall length and make sure you fold it in half the long ways, like way it's going to be sewn, and figure out, you know, all right, my waistband ends, you know, right here at the top of the ruler. Okay, so that means that, you know, my waistband is 3.5 inches too, or my waistband, the length is 3.5 inches too long because my waistband is ending way here and I want it to end up here. So then you're just gonna shorten your garment and get it where you want. And make sure you do it to the back as well and that your side seams match, all right? Now, what about the hem circumference? Now, if this were a shirt that was tapering for some reason, it's not. This is, looks like it looks perpendicular, pretty sure, yeah. So this one's straight. You don't really have to make any adjustments going to the hem circumference. If yours tapers or flares, be really careful if you're making any hem overall length adjustments that you don't change that amount of the hem circumference, because if you have a garment, all right, we'll draw a picture. I dated this guy really temporarily once, and I met his dad, and his dad was so delightful, and every time he would be like, he loved understanding things, and he didn't understand, like, I met him on the farm, working on a farm. And so we were all people working on this farm out of our element of what we usually would have been doing out in the world. And so when he learned that I was a pattern drafter and clothing designer, he'd be like, draw me a picture. And every time I do that, I always think of this guy. I would love to know that guy's dad still. This is the worst bodice I've ever drawn. All right, so, oh. Okay. All right, here's your bodice. So now let's say that it, I feel like flaring would be more normal, but we'll kind of taper it in, right? We'll just say it tapers in, right? Now say you want to shorten this garment quite a bit, like up here. This amount right here, this hem circumference, might be really different than down here. And so say you decide, oh, I'm just going to cut this off, right? Now it's shorter. You may have made this too narrow to fit over the part of your body that it goes to. Don't think of it as, oh, well, this right here was hanging below where I wanted it to. So obviously this spot on me is in the place I want it. Don't assume that, because you never know. Your waist might be up here and this one was drafted down here. And so moving that line up and down on you might make your hem circumference too big or too small. So just make sure that when you make these adjustments, make your adjustment. Maybe even leave this whole piece intact. That's why a lot of home sewing patterns have lengthen and shorten lines, so that you're not fiddling with this whole piece here. And then blend in your seam, your side seam again. All right, that's just my cautionary tale. End of cautionary tale. Hi, Ray, how's it going? Nice. Okay, so what's next? We've got our overall length is okay. Across shoulder, let's look at our across shoulder amount. So this is the back right here. I'm gonna lay a piece of paper under here. And I'm gonna extend this center back line. It's on the fold, so this is the center back. We're also going to draw in the seam line of our outer shoulder at the armhole right here. So 3/8, 3/8, so here, this little point is our armhole, shoulder seam point. And you're gonna measure from center back to that point there. And this is why I draw this line, because often this right here, this is that weird shoulder slope thing. Often you're measuring from here and going across like to here. And that's why I usually have to extend this line. This one isn't much different. All right, so this one is 8 3/4, and his was 16 total. So that means that this one is already about 1.5 inches wider than him. So maybe I would want to bring it in a little bit. I'm not going to though, because this is the one thing on my husband. He has really broad shoulders. If anything, I'm probably going to bring it in other places, because we haven't looked at the chest yet. And if you need to bring this in, what I recommend doing is trying to keep this armhole intact, so you can cut your pattern like this, move it in, and then you might end up having to blend in your side seam. Now, if you move it in and you don't want the chest to get narrower, then leave it. You can move this whole thing in, but then just blend out your line here. I'm sorry, I'm probably saying too many things here. So let's say that we want to move this in or bring it out. Ideally, you're not going to change your armhole. That way you don't have to monkey around with the sleeve, okay? That's the only reason I say cut it here, pull it out or pull it in, and then blend your lines. Use your seam line and then add your seam allowance back so that you get a nice, because it's going to have a jog in it, right? And then here, say that you bring this in and now your armhole is ending right here, right? You've shifted it in there and you're like, well, shoot, I really need that inch because that's 2 inches in chest circumference I just lost. You can just bring it back here, and then this amount right here, this exact amount, especially on the seam line, you're going to add to your sleeve right here. So this point is where your sleeve sews. So look at it this way. This is where it was, and you just took in the whole armhole that you're like, oh gosh, I just lost some of my chest circumference. So you're like, well, this is where my sleeve went. You need to add that back in. Add it to this sleeve here, right? Right there, and then taper that to nothing at the hem. Does that make sense? Think of this amount right here as this little guy right here. think of it how it relates, and it really helps kind of not be as intimidating or scary to alter a sleeve. All right. You guys are really quiet, so I'm just going to say if you have a question or I'm going too fast or you want me to explain something in further, just tell me. I am going really fast, and it's only because we haven't even gotten to making some of the adjustment that we want to do. It's not going to be hard, but I just want to give you some point of references if you're going to be changing a pattern and looking at the sizing. It is totally fine if you want to say, stop, I need more information about that. Just tell me. I'm just moving along because I'm just giving you options as I go, just to make sure that I cover most things, because I'm not going over that part right now, so I'm happy to explain. All right. Oh, and I should say that if you're doing this, you know, bringing in your shoulder or bringing it out here, this adjustment, you have to do it on the front and the back. And your sleeve, you need to do it on the both sides of your sleeve. This sleeve is actually on the fold, so hopefully whatever you change on this armhole is the exact same on the other armhole, and then you just make the same change one side of your sleeve. You're focusing. Okay, good. All right, so where are we at? So right now I'm still just comparing measurements of my husband's favorite fit to this one. So we've done the high pointed shoulder. I always start with the length and the across shoulder, those two, because we're up at the top. That's the garment hangs from that point, right? Oh no, Sydney. I hope it's not. So that leaves right now our chest circumference and the sleeve length. All right, so let's do those. All right, so our chest circumference, we're just gonna double check that the chest is the same on front and back. And it is. This fold line goes to the seam on this upper front. Remember, this has a seam allowance on the upper front, not down here. All right, so this is the same. So we'll just use the back since it's nice and tidy in one piece. All right, so let's find our finished line there for the chest. And this one measures about, it's 11, almost 11 there. So, you know, that's 44 inches in chest circumference. His favorite measures 40.5. So here, we can actually do these changes now to the, that we were just talking about with the armhole and the chest. All right, so now we know we probably, his favorite garment's 40.5, so we need like 3.5 inches gone. We'll just take out like, let's just take out about 2.5, because his favorite garment is so much lighter weight than this, okay? That's so funny, Sydney. All right, so we're gonna minus 2.5 inches on the chest. So we still need to do that. All right, that's our first thing we know. Now let's check our sleeve length. My husband has long arms. So again, here we have the back. Remember, this is on the fold. That's our center back. And we're going to find our overlap point. So basically, we're just lining this up on the seam line. Remember, the sleeve right here, this is on the fold. So line it up with the shoulder seam there. This is an awkward measurement, so don't feel like you're doing it wrong if you're doing it at all. You know, it's just an awkward measurement. It looks weird. It feels like you're doing it wrong. Where's that piece of paper? We need to find our center back again up here. Sometimes I just do this. I line my ruler up. Like, say I don't have a piece of paper, I will line my ruler up and put a weight on it. Pattern room hacks. And then I'm going to put my ruler at the center back neck here, you know, cross. Is that what I want to do? Yeah, I'm going to do it down here too. We're going to check it here and we're going to pivot, because this is kind of how we measured the garment. So I'm going to line it up at the center back right here at the neck. And I'm just going to pivot when I get to the shoulder seam. The shoulder seam is right here. Just pivot. We're going for rough measurements. and I get 33 3/4. His sleeve length on his is 30.5. Now, this has a hem allowance. Doesn't have a hem allowance. This actually has a wristbands. So these sleeves would be pretty long, but I will say sleeves that have the cuff usually, you know, when you see the cuff on the person, the sleeve is a little bit like slouchy, you know? So that's probably why there's a little bit of sleeve ease there. We're going to remove some of that because he doesn't have the wristband. He also really likes to be able to go like this with his sleeves, like say he's washing dishes or doing something out in the garage, feeding the dogs, whatever. He likes to be able to do this, and that is one of his pet peeves with this. No wonder too, now that we've learned that it doesn't stretch at all. Look at that. I have really small wrists, so it's basically it wouldn't do anything but just be at the wrist, and that is it. All right, so 33 3/4. Sleeve length of his is 30.5. So let's just take off 3 inches. Minus 3 inches sleeve length. All right. Now we know what our actions are going to be. We're just now, all I'm doing right now is getting the garment to the fitting of the style he likes. That's all. We're not doing any of our style lines yet. To be honest, we don't have to do a whole lot because all we're going to do is fix this center front here. Pretty sure. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to do. I've got my collar here. That's fine. I'm just make sure it works. So we don't have a whole lot of changes to do to the pattern to make it the way I'm going to be doing it. We're just right now focusing on, well, 2 of these elements. The fact that I'm removing the waistband and the wristband. These fit changes are going to encompass how we want it to end up that way. So, all right, so first things first, let's see. Let's do our sleeve since that's easy in the length department, because we're going to change this arm's eye a little bit when we adjust the chest here. So let's just get our hem length correct. And we're going to remove 3 inches. Oi. So we need a hem shape. So I'm going to remove 2 1/4 and leave 3/4 of an inch for a hem. So I'm removing 3 inches essentially still. All right, so that's how much. Now, do I want this? What's the hem circumference that I want? Like this one right here. Because remember, this was designed for a wristband. This one right here, 4.5. Yeah, see, look how much bigger that is. It's quite a bit bigger. It's probably going to be a good thing we're making the chest smaller because it's going to make our sleeve smaller in general. So we want him to be able to stretch it to get it over his wrists. This is pretty stretchy, so we shouldn't have too much trouble as long as my cover stitch is not too rigid when we go to sew it, right? All right, so 4 1/4. A standard is a 9-inch hem circumference. I just know that. It's like for like a men's shirt sleeve, that hem circumference is about 9 inches. So we're going to make ours 4 1/4, right? Plus we're going to add our seam allowance, 3/8. So this right here, do I want to call that my cut line? Not really. Let's put in our, we're going to draw in, whoops, our hem width here. So this is our hem. 3/4 inch hem. That's what I gave myself, 3/4 inch hem. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not doing Sharpies. This is my hem fold line. This is my cut line. But we need to make this smaller. So we're going to measure on the fold line of the hem because this is where it's going to finish our finished amount right here. So that's 4 1/4. Add your seam allowance, 3/8. This point right here is the cut point of our hem. Not down here though yet. So let's taper this into up here. This is going to change though. I'm just going to do this as a demonstration just in case you aren't changing any of your armhole or your sleeve cap. If you're changing the width of your sleeve because it's just going to hang free like mine is without the wristband, you're going to need to do this. So now we need the amount our hem shape here. So when this folds up, it matches the underarm seam here. So the easy thing to do is just fold it on the hemline and then cut out your underarm seam, and then you'll have the little shape right here. So the technical way to do it is to put your ruler perpendicular to this point right here, this like point at that the sleeve bends right there, the hem fold line. Put that perpendicular, all right? And now I'm going to slide my ruler to the left. And when it is 3/4 of an inch above this line, here, let's just draw a little spot here. 3/4 of an inch. Because this right here needs to fold up to there, right? Like this. Shoop. So it goes to that point. You don't have to say you're doing this on cardstock and you can't fold the paper. This is how you get around that. So now slide your ruler over. Make sure it's perpendicular to these lines here. This point right here, now draw a line at the bottom where this point mirrors to there. And now draw from this cut point to that line right there, and that is your diagonal. And then if we, I'll draw in red so we can see how accurate it is when I fold it up, all right? So this right here is the line. So now say I didn't do that and we just folded it up just like this. We'll see how good I was. And we cut right here. Voila, right down the middle of the red. So that's how that is. All right. That took me so long to get the hang of. And now it's very obvious once I think about, oh, well, it's the hem fold line. This line is going to end up 3/4 of an inch parallel to this edge. If you just do it straight, you're doing yourself a disservice, because when you go to sew it, what happens is when you fold it up here, if this right here, this cut edge of your hem, let's just look at it. If the cut edge of this hem doesn't reach all the way to the underarm seam, what happens? It's sitting out here, and then you have to pull it, you have to stretch it. And what happens is that hem, you know, when it's folded, the hem right here where you've stitched it is pulling. So it's going in right there, and it flares right here. I'm sure there's someone who knows exactly what I'm talking about, because we've done it before, right? It is definitely a shortcut you don't want to take. All right, so let's work on our chest circumference. So now we're going to be removing 2.5 inches in the chest. Now that might seem like a lot, but it's actually not that bad, because we're going to divide it in 4, because our underarm right here at the chest, this one right here is only 1/4 of the total of your chest circumference, right? So if this 2.5 inches, what is that? You know, I can't do math in front of you guys, so 3 probably would have been faster, honestly. So that's 5/8 of an inch. I knew that. All right, so 5/8 of an inch, because if we take off 5/8 of an inch right here, and we take 5/8 of an inch off here, that's 1 1/4 inches on this one and 1 1/4 inches on this one. That would be the easier way to figure that out too. You can take the 2.5 inches and go, oh, okay, I need to remove 2.5 inches equally around the entire chest circumference. Divide it in half, and you're like, all right, I got 1 1/4 inches left. So I need to remove 1 1/4 inches off the front and 1 1/4 inches off the back. Divide it in half again, and you have your amount right there. So we're going to remove 5/8 of the chest. I wonder about the hem circumference here. We could probably remove some in the hem too. Let's see. Let's check this one out. Yeah, we probably could. So we'll just go straight down. That'll make it a little easier too. All right, so if you have to remove a lot and you're like, oh God, I'm getting into the curve of this armhole, I'm getting a little nervous, you may have needed to size down if you're really getting into this curve and you're kind of nervous about affecting the armhole shape. I would be too. So think about that and try and keep the integrity of your armhole. All right, so we're gonna take this 5/8 of an inch off of our chest circumference here. And we're going to do this one here. And so this is going to take off 2.5 inches total in the chest and in the hem circumference. I need some space. Let's move our fabric over here. Pattern pieces, scrap paper. So let's look at this armhole depth here. And like I said, if you're changing this curve a little too much, like you're just going so far in that the curve is going to end up higher than where it was before, you probably should scoop that armhole back out. So look at where it's finishing down here and kind of blend it back in to that point. I'm obviously blending this cut line to that seam line, but I think you know what I mean. So then you would blend it in with your cut line there. That makes sense? All right, so let's transfer this over. So this is what I do. So this point right here is the actual original cut point. I'm going to move it over here. So that's where I want my armhole to blend to. Let's zoom in. Let's zoom in. I can't imagine this is even interesting. Especially if you can't even see it very good. Meow. Always comes with a sound effect too. All right. So this is our new point. This is the old point. Move it right over to there. And then we'll blend our armhole into that, right? This one's not all marked up, so here we go. There's our 5/8 inch line. Let's move it over there. Here's my new one. All right, and so we're gonna cut out, we're gonna cut this off here. And I am treating this lower front taped to my upper front as one. Probably should use permanent tape too, rather than this removable tape. I'm not going to remove it at this point. We're still going to do something to the center front here. Should just use my rotary knife when I'm doing a single layer of paper. It's a little easier. I'm going to cut this off so you can kind of see the finish, or not the finish, but the cut edges at least. My brain, this is how you do it. I think if pattern drafting seam with sewing is confusing at all, the thing to think about is, what are you affecting? I always think about, where is this on the garment? Where is it going to end up, right? I even think about that with the seam allowance. Like if I have a really steep curve, I'm like, well, can my seam allowance relax on such a steep curve? Like, is it going to be able to just stay flat, or is it going to fold back on itself? That's when you're clipping curves, you know, things like that. All right, so now we have our armhole, which has lost 5/8 of an inch. So we're already thinking about our sleeve. It's going to have to lose 5/8 of an inch over here, right? And same thing, we're going to be blending into this line down here. But let's finish our armhole here. So remember, this is our point, and we're going to blend it in. Just like that. I'm going to cut it off right away so I know what is the real line. Now, if you're doing any of these adjustments, you're like, oh, I have this other shirt that I want to do this to. Now I know how. And your shirt is a woven. I'm going to caution you just to absolutely, come on, make sure that your sleeve is still going to fit. On knits, you can have a little bit of flexibility and some forgiveness if you get this 1/4 of an inch off or something. But if you're doing this on a really nice dress shirt or something similar, and you're doing this method, this is the correct method to do this kind of thing. You absolutely need to measure the cap of your sleeve and your armhole on the seam line for both and make sure they still fit. And when you do that, in general, not on this garment, I'm pretty sure, but on anything woven, your sleeve is going to be up to 1.5 inches bigger before you did your changes. All right? I think it's really important when you're making any kind of sleeve armhole changes, measure these things before you do any changes so that you know what the difference is. And then when you go to do the changes, you don't want to be like, oh my God, my sleeve is 4 inches bigger now. Well, 1.5 inches of that was ease, and you have to leave that in there. So really, it's only, 2.5 inches bigger, right? Or 3 inches bigger. So you're only talking about dealing with that. So remember, you have to have that ease that was in your sleeve to begin with. Don't cut that off because your sleeve won't fit you very good, all right? So I just want to remember. Hi, Angela, how's it going? Awesome, Nicole. Wow, Tammy, you did? I'm a wizard. I don't know about that. Okay, so now we have our armhole here, and I feel pretty confident about it. I'm not too worried about the sleeve sewing into this once I make this change here. But like I just gave you that little like mini pep talk, if you're doing any sleeve changes, make sure if it's wovens that you check. And we can just check and just see. All right, so this is the 5/8. I'm measuring it on the seam line here, right? Here's the 3/8 inch seam. And I'm going to go down. My ruler is just barely long enough, so I'm going to this point here from this point. And yes, we're going to have to figure out our flare again. That's okay. We're pros at that now, right? All right, and so we'll do it the easy way since our paper is so lightweight. You can see there's just a tiny little piece of paper hanging off now. There we go. And we still now have our hem shape. Our sleeve is the right length this way. But the only thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to kind of just scoop this out a tiny bit since we trimmed off this little, is this it? Yeah. So remember how I was talking about this point of this armhole right here? It's the same with your sleeve. If you're taking out a lot here and you're choking up your sleeve, you're not really choking up, but you know what I mean? You just lost at this point. So let's put this on the grid table, right? So this line right here of the fold of the sleeve is on the fold of the grid, all right? And if this was the old sleeve here, right here's the point. I just raised it up to here. Ay caramba. That's, I think, 1/4 of an inch different, right? Let's line my ruler up. Yeah, so that's 1/4 of an inch difference between this point here, and, oh, maybe this ruler might show you better even. I don't know. There. Look at that. That amount right there that this ruler point is down into the sleeve. So let's bring back that little scoop, getting to this point again, right? These little things on the sleeve cap are important. They're there for a reason. All right. Oakley dokley. So now this is when you, if you're making big changes, you would probably want to measure this and then measure it to your armhole. That's a pretty big armhole there. I'm not too worried about it. If it doesn't match, it's because there's ease in the sleeve, and but there shouldn't be. Hi, Elena. How's it going? Oh, hi, Rebecca. Nice to see you. How's your summer break going? All right, so let's measure our sleeve cap here. I'm going to measure it on the seam line. I'm not going to be really precise. That's why I'm just using my curved ruler. If you are doing wovens, I highly recommend you be a little bit more precise, because we're doing knits here, and I'm pretty confident that the changes I've made have been consistent. As long as the garment is a good pattern, we're fine, right? So we're just going to do this as a demo, but I'm going to fold or curve my ruler right along the seam line here and figure it out. And so when I get to this underarm seam of the sleeve here, I'm going to put a mark 3/8 of an inch in. And so this measurement here is 11 1/4 plus. Plus always means 1/16 of an inch for me. Okay, and now the same thing, I'm going to measure this armhole here on the front and the back. Are they the same? They're not. The front is longer. That is super weird. Okay, so when I do an armhole, sometimes what I do is look at it this way, right? We're going to overlap it. I'm going to show you my little trick of doing these. I always measure from the shoulder seam to the raw edge of the underarm. And so then normally what I would do is, because this is the shoulder seam, right? Shoulder seam right here, the fold of the sleeve goes to the shoulder seam. And so if it goes to the raw edge here and the raw edge here, that's apples to apples. Oh, Tammy! Wow, thank you. That's very nice of you. Oh, that's so cool, Tammy. Oh, that's awesome, Rebecca. Oh, the oh no. Oh well, yeah, exactly. That's a pretty dress though, the Elodie. I've seen that one. All right, so this is my method of doing it. I find it to be faster. I find the shoulder seam here, right? So that's my finished seam. There's the alert. Thank you, Tammy. That's so nice of you. And I measure the armhole, and I go from the raw edge of the underarm up to the finished seam, and that is a solid 12. And then I do the same thing on this armhole. You know, one other weird thing about this garment pattern is that you are looking at the left and the right of the front and the back. All right, so same thing here. We can go 3/8 down. It's a little bit wishier, washier. It's about 11 3/4. I always write it on here. And now when I measure this, it's going to be, you know, probably 11 5/8 plus. Stop that. There we go. Yep, 11 5/8 plus. Always cross out your old ones. All right, and so then what you can do, you'll add these two together, which is obviously, you know, 23 3/4, right? Total. And then this one's 22 23 1/4 plus. I don't even need the thing. So these are about a 1/2 inch different, and the sleeve is smaller. No easing there, right? So there you go. We're okay. All right, so now we've got our chest circumference, our high pointed shoulder, our sleeve length, our across shoulder. I did write down the bicep. I was kind of curious. So this one's a little fuller. It gets kind of tricky if you're going to start adjusting your bicep when you have all of this other stuff adjusted already, because and there are ways to do it I'm not going to get into today because it's a little mind bending. It's not hard, because if you want to keep these two sides, all this the same, but you want to change the width of this, you're talking about doing some interesting pattern drafting stuff to be able to get rid of fullness here. You can't just bring this in. You'd have to bring this in and raise this up. You know what I mean? Think of it as something wishy-washy fluid. So, all right, so now where are we at? We're down to making our style lines. We've done the hems. We've gotten rid of the chest seam because we taped those two pattern pieces together. But we don't have the zip length correct, and we don't have the seam allowance here correct. That's what we got to work on now. So we got our front out. And we need to decide, what do we want? Are we really going for this kind of look here with the zipper being exposed? I also want you to note, like, do you see the ripples in this? That happens. Fleece shrinks over time, and same with, we've all put in zipper in fleece and then kind of pull our hair out, right? Because it does this wavy thing. So it happens to the best of us. That's why I wanted you to know. So this one looks like all of this shrank after it was in, and now the zipper is wavy. See it? It's pretty bad, but it's not. It doesn't look bad. We've accepted the way this looks. We don't think this is bad and ready to wear. We only think it's as bad when we sew it, right? Okay. So if we want to look at all this stuff here, do we want to do some of these techniques? Probably. I kind of want to do this collar technique, and I kind of want an under flap. Look, it just kind of hangs down here, and it's attached to the zipper. There's the zipper tape right there. See, so it's not even attached to the garment. It is top stitched though. I'm not sure I'll do this binding thing, but hey, we can try, right? I'm down. All right, so essentially this is what our pattern piece needs to look like. On the fold. So if that, well, this is how the garment looks right now, right? If you just look at the fabric, that is what the garment looks like right now. The pattern piece doesn't look like that right now. So let's mark our center front on here, which is the fold of this lower pocket. We're going to pretend like everything else doesn't matter. We may have to adjust the length of the collar to sew to this because we're going to make some adjustments here. So now let's look at the width of our zipper. This isn't the zipper I'm going to use. This is just one sitting here. Let's look at a couple of different zipper widths. Look at how different these are. It's really important to note these kinds of things when you're sewing something so anxiety-inducing, right? I think that you need to remember that, you know, just the width of your zipper can probably give you a bad sewing day when it comes to doing something that's its focal point of this. So just remember that. And let's just hope, I think the zipper I'm using is more like this one. You know what's weird is the zipper tape on this side looks wider than this. Maybe it's just, I think it's just a shadow. How weird. Wouldn't that be weird? Yeah, it looks the same. Weird. Yeah, because I think, I'm kind of hoping that that mine is a bigger coil. Oh, this is the same size coil though. So if I want a zipper like this is it right here. All right, so I think a brass zipper would be kind of interesting, but I do think that it would be a little bit harder to sew if you're doing this for the first time, because you need to have one the perfect length so that you don't have to worry about turning back any of the zipper like this. or sewing across the brass teeth, because that's never something we really want to explore. I do it on zipper jeans and things like that, but it's in a pretty controlled environment, and with something like this, wouldn't be my first thing I'd want to sew, to be honest. All right, so here's our zipper. Our zipper width, it's what? It's about an inch. Not even. Okay. I feel like I'm gonna have to use my zipper foot, and I hate using that thing. All right, so my zipper tape is 7/8 of an inch. Less than an inch, so 7/8 of an inch. And if I want to use 1/4 of an inch seam allowance on both sides, yeah, their zipper tape is wider, isn't it? Could be. I guess if they're using like an 1/8 inch seam allowance, then, oi, I hope I can use a wider zipper. 1/8 of an inch isn't very much when you're talking about these really thick fleece fabrics. So if I was using 1/4 inch seam allowance, that ends up putting my exposed bit of the zipper. Let's draw it on here. All right. My pencil's not very dark. All right, so let's measure that amount right there. What is that? That's 3/8 of an inch. So that means that this cutout needs to be half that amount, because we still need our seam allowance as well. All right, so let's take off our, let's see, how long do we want this? Let's see, we want this about 8 inches long. Great. Let's measure 8 inches down from the neckline seam, so that's about here. All right. And so if we put that cutout here, oh yeah, this right here. And so we also need our seam allowance, right? And so that's about what our seam allowance could be. We could just make it a little bit smaller. I'm trying to think. I've done this with much wider zipper tape. I'm a little nervous about this really narrow zipper tape. Because I have, look at mine. Mine's even wider. Look at that. Look how different these are. Most people don't even realize zipper tape changes in width. Those are really big differences when you're talking about sewing these kinds of things. So we're going to leave this on the fold, and we're probably just going to slit it and use this as our seam allowance. And then that will leave us enough zipper. All right, so if this right here, we cut this on the fold, okay, pretend like we're cutting this on the fold, and then we sew our zipper in out of, 1/4 of an inch there, right? It's gonna leave very little zipper exposed. But it puts our zipper teeth right on that fold line. See that? So we're not going to cut anything out right here. We're just going to do a slit down the center of the garment when we go to sew it, or probably when we're at the table, because cutting this kind of straight line down the center of your fold is pretty dicey sitting at your sewing machine. And the last thing you want is your zipper to be more like this, like off center a little bit. Here, let's put this. I feel like all of us have probably seen this on our Instagram feed. Someone makes a beautiful thing, but the zipper's off a little bit. That might happen to us. We're not going to worry about it. But we're going to try and set ourselves up for success. We're already going to be worried about the collar matching across from itself, things like that. All right, so here's our pattern piece. We're just gonna put it on the fold all the way down because my zipper tape is so small. Let's look at our collar. Let's compare. This one's 2.5. This one's 3 inches. What do you guys think? Would you want cut on the dotted line for the lining? Oh yeah, okay, so there's 2 pattern pieces for this. This does have a lining. Okay, cool. So this is actually not the finished height of the collar. If this is the lining pattern piece where this dotted line is right here, that means that it's, if you sewed these 2 together and then lined up these 2 seams, it's going to be a little less than 3 inches tall. Cool. We'll just leave that as is, and then we'll check it out while we're sewing it, get what we want. We really don't have any pattern alterations to do. We're just leaving off a ton of pattern pieces. It's as simple as that. The only thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to draft a pattern piece to go behind the zipper because I'd really like to incorporate something like that. I think it's just really nice against the body to have this little facing underneath the zipper. It's stabilized before cutting the slit. Yeah, see, that's pretty smart, you know, putting some interfacing down. We can make an interfacing pattern piece. How is yours done, Lynn? Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. The way you worded that, I was kind of like, wait a minute. But I see what you mean. Yeah, so they just, yeah, okay, cool. Let's look at this little facing here. It's about 1 1/8 inches wide, finished. So let's make ours about 1 1/2 inches wide cut. That gives us some seam allowance on either side. We'll do a fat 1 1/2 inches wide. And that's not too hard to do since we're using a Sharpie. Okay, I'm just going to square it off at the bottom. And if you wanted to do this little like nice little curve, I think that's a nice touch, and honestly you might as well, because otherwise what you have is, you see how this is already flaring? Can you see that? Say that this was squared off, so the missing fabric is like over here. Think about how much that would be flaring. So I think it's kind of good to get rid of that little like whoop-de-doo there. So yeah, so let's see, ours is about 8 inches, our slit is 8 inches long, right? Plus we need it to go over our collar, which was about 3 inches. Let's try 11 inches. So let's make ours 13 inches long, and that will, wait, let's say 8, 11. How much do I want? I want a little bit extra so we can trim it off. 11, 12, 13, would that be enough? Let's just make it 14 inches. This might not be a big enough pattern piece. No, it's not. And then that way, we can always trim it off the bottom of the zipper. That's easy. Yeah, exactly. What pattern are you doing, Lynn? That's cool, Nicole. I love doing stuff like that. I've been like, I'm not in a funk, but I'm definitely in a overwhelmed state lately, and I will get rid of it and then it comes right back. All right, so let's put a little curve in here. And it's more like all the things that I want to do and all the things I feel like I should do to keep you guys like happy. And at the same time, I'm like, no, you know, you do this for free. You should just do what you want. And then I'm like, yeah, but it's more fun with friends. All right, so let's just, let's make sure that we notice this and that it's not garbage. Zip. I don't want to call it a facing. I'm going to call it a facing. All right, now we're good. So then this will go like this. You have your collar, right? There we go. Something like that. S8704. Oh, is it one of the big 4 companies? I wouldn't be surprised if they have a total knockoff of a like a Patagonia zip. It'd be a good place to look for one. Shall we cut this out finally? I don't think I have lining fabric. I have some black. I have some wool. Where's this stuff though? Not this one here. I have this black polyester stuff that might be good for a lining. I folded this fabric so carefully and now it's a freaking mess. Let's get it back on track. Yeah, it's essentially like a fly shield. Yeah, in fact, I think that's what we called it, was a zipper shield. That's so funny, you say that. That just popped into my head. I haven't thought about that in years. I think that is what they called it. I didn't come up with that name. I think Penny did. Oh, that's nice, Elena. Thank you for saying that. Sydney, I missed you on Saturday. But I know you probably had your mom over or your family. All right, so we're going to fold this. See, here's my zip, my flaw. Oh, let's unzoom. Let's make the color a little better. The color looks so bad, doesn't it? Come on, there we go. You have been deep in jeans land. I like it. Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that. I think like it's this combination of trying to show what live streaming is about, that it is about like doing something together and being a part of a group of people that like doing the same things. Because it doesn't matter if someone's even an expert in this. Someone who's, you know, entertaining or fun to be around, that's really all it takes for live streaming. I mean, you wouldn't want someone out there giving bad advice and becoming influential, right? And that happens all the time. And it does happen in the sewing world, doesn't it? But they're probably not live streamers. Oh, that's cool. Your daughter's birthday was this weekend. It's way more important. Oh my gosh. I don't like it when you guys tell me I'm on a big TV. Let's brighten this up. I forgot that's what we had made it darker. I hear people will say that in other people's chats and they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah. Let me take the saturation down a little bit. Okay. Trying to preserve my pattern pieces, but get this all folded. I gotta hang this off for a second. Boy, I'm so disappointed by this fabric though, you know? I never call anyone out. I'm totally gonna call them out on Instagram and be like, yo, this isn't cool. Especially since I did email you. Oh, this is not folded right. I had this folded right. I miss having someone in the studio to help me fold the fabric. Oh, did you not see it, Sydney? I showed it to you when you asked before. Me too, Tammy. I love watching streams when I'm like washing dishes and cleaning and stuff. It makes it hard to get anything done though, because if you want to chat. All right, I'll show you in a second, Sydney, but it's this whole length of the fabric. It's totally flawed. Oh, I turned, see it? Can't you see that? You see those diagonal yellow lines? I'm pretty sure I got it from that Colorado place, and that's why I haven't said the name, because I want to make sure, but I'm pretty sure it was Rocky Woods. I can check in a second. I don't want to throw someone under the bus that, you know, doesn't need to be there. Yeah, so can you see that? It's really bad. They're yellow. Let's see, I can just look it up. Let's see if it was them. Maybe not. Is it one word? Yep, Rocky Woods. Yeah, so yeah, they charged me $18 for shipping. And then it's flawed the whole length. Oh yeah, I do the same thing. I check from my phone. Yeah, so it's like the whole thing got stuck in something, but only the section, which is really, really weird. Like, how would everything be fine that way? You know? Honestly, I should be just folding it with this, like cut that off. All right, let's get this cut though. All right, so one thing is nice about this is it's gonna be pretty easy to tell if you have it torqued because of these lines. And I can see I am folded right along this. So that's kind of nice. So yeah, I discovered this like literally minutes before I started at 10:50. And I've looked at the fabric a few times, and it's just so much fabric, and it's just this one, it's like one little tiny, not tiny, but it's about 14.5-inch section of this really wide fabric. So I mean, I can get almost the entire shirt on one length, but that's not going to happen. So let's try and preserve some of it. Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't look like a sunlight thing. It's actually yellow, not faded. You know? I'm going to cut it off. It's kind of impossible to work with. Maybe I'll just mail it back to them. You gotta understand, you guys, I'm not passive aggressive, I'm just aggressive. Like, I don't like that passive stuff. I just tell people exactly what I'm thinking. I'm all about coming together with some resolution and working things out, but at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with being honest. I don't like it when some of my really young friends, like I've like been in game chats, you know, like in video games, where I don't know one of the people, like it's someone new to the chat, and they'll say something racist or violent or gross or derogatory, and I'll be like, yo, that's not cool, knock it off. And I've had my friend be like, Saremy, don't be mean. I'm like, that's not mean. That's not being mean. That's being honest and direct. And you really need to learn the difference. And she's come a long way. I'm really glad too. And I just leave the chat then. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this. And I just leave. And they usually do too. All right. Look at all this. That's a lot. It'll make good dog bed filling. Deanna, yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to hand embroider over. What? Wait. Add hand embroidery over it? Rebecca. No. No. I can only say that to her because she's my friend in real life. It's polar fleece, you know, like synthetic. I think it's recycled actually. Oh, I wouldn't put that much effort into that. I'm sorry I've been folding for like a half hour. This is way better though. It fits on my table nice. Respect. I think too, like, because I remember this one time very distinctly with my friend that, and I told her, I was like, no, that is not being mean. There's a big difference. They were being mean. I was telling them that that wasn't okay. That's a big difference. I really wanted her to know that because she is very, very passive. She's the sweetest person, kind, generous, and I think that there's, you know, those are very special traits to have. I don't want some jerk ruining that. And plenty of guys try. Like, she sounds cute. She is cute. They don't know that. I know what she looks like. She sounds cute. She's really sweet, and guys just swoon. PlayStation isn't a dating app. All right. Let's get this show on the road. Just exactly, it is, isn't it? All these pieces are cut on the fold, though, so it's kind of annoying that, you know, like I can get this whole front across, or this whole back. And she's great now. Like, she and I, I'll entertain you with some of our PlayStation escapades. So she is obviously much younger than me. And I like her so much. And she and I started playing at the same time. We didn't know each other. We met each other. Oh my God, this is just so frustrating. So when we finally met each other, I really wanted to be her friend because she's another gal and she was new. And so it took me months because, you know, it's like stranger danger, you know. And we've been through a lot. Weirdly, we ended up kind of in a couple of groups that were a little bit drama llama, and she and I are not drama llama. And so, and because we're the females, no one knew how old I was. It just weirdly, it's always about that kind of thing. And so she and I were like, ugh, you know. We ended up coming up with these like hallmarks of when we know someone is bad news, and it's really funny. Like, it's kind of tongue in cheek because we kind of had to make it that way. But like, one of them was like, you know, and some of them aren't very nice, you guys. I'm just gonna say, but we've totally been through the ringer. But one of the ones she came up with, well, if they're a guy and they have a female avatar. When she said that one, I just cracked up. I was like, gosh, that's been true for every single one of those weirdos. You're right. It's obviously not true, but you know. Things like that. If they message us directly, you know, just weird things like that. It's pretty funny. Girls got to stick together sometimes. All right, here we go. I'm finally going to cut. Hi, Glenn. How's it going? Oh, okay, wait a minute. I could use it for gloves. Ray, you just knocked that off. I'm going to time you out. Hey, Louise. How's it going? I was just thinking about you the other day. I always see you liking people's posts and saying such really nice, encouraging things on people's things, and I love that. I love seeing people I know doing that. Okay. Sydney, can you tell this also to the people who say that taking time for yourself, doing self-care doesn't mean we are all turning into wimpy whiners? Right. You only play Animal Crossing? That's great. That's not multiplayer. Oh, dang. So that's a bummer, Louise. Soak up every minute. I think self-care comes in so many different forms, too. I don't even need, I just don't even announce it. I just don't even feel the need to announce self-care. I just do it. I didn't for so long, too. All right, this is the back, and it only has a single notch in the armhole, and that's because, remember, the sleeve's on the fold, so then there's not separate notches for front and back, and it's also not a asymmetrical sleeve, so you don't have to worry about it. Do you need that notch? I don't know. I mean, it's just the arm's eye notch, so it's not as, it's not going to be as helpful as you think. So you can notch it if you want. I'm going to skip it, but I am going to put one at the center back neck right here, and I'm just putting a tiny little nip. There's also a notch here at the neck. And I'm going to put that in because I'm not sure what it's for. It's for the collar, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how critical it is, so I'm going to put that in there. Okay. So this is our back. I'm not going to keep the pattern piece. I'm just going to fold up the back. The good news is I could probably make 3 of these with the amount of fabric I have. I don't know why I have so much fabric. I don't like it when places don't let you buy in increments. It's so wasteful. I sometimes don't even order from places if they don't allow you to buy in increments. And this one I was just like obviously desperate. The Sewing Fairy was trying to tell me not to order from this place when I was kind of like $18 for shipping. $18? Let's fold this like this so I can see those squares. Oh, that would be a really bad way to deal with that though, Lynn. No, sometimes people really like it like that. Hi, Heidi. How's it going? Savor the girl power. Woo woo. As we're sewing menswear, men are absolutely welcome here. I've always gotten along better with guys. It's kind of funny that way. I don't really care either way. I just like having good people in my life, you know? No matter who they are. All my pattern pieces, after all that shuffling, they ended up on the floor. All right, so this is our front, and remember we modified it, and we're just gonna put it, oops, on the fold, which is my new black line right here. So I should mention, I'm not really worried about matching up the squares of the, I don't want to call it a weave. What would you call this? The texture on this fabric. I'm not going to match up the squares. That's just crazy making. All right. We're going to slit this front, and I'm going to do it what's nice is it's right along, is it right along? Yeah, it's right along, it better be, one of these little ridges. So that's pretty easy. And I'm gonna do just a 7-inch slit for now. And then I'm gonna stabilize it too with some fusible interfacing. You could do that after. You could do this and then put some interfacing on it and then slit it too. I'll show you at the beginning of the sewing thing. Hello, Spooky Dolly, welcome. I'm behind on chat, I'm just realizing. Otherwise I'd be like, hi, how's it going? Right, Delta? That kind of just crossed my mind too. Yeah, right, Sydney? Thunder and rain. Oh, yeah, you guys are talking about the weather. Soggy summer is normal. Oh, what is DIL? Is that daughter-in-law? Oh, that's cool. What is DIL? I see people write that. Your men's shorts for your daughter-in-law? Okay, so now we need our sleeves. Let me just consult the floor here for my pattern pieces. Are you doing those cargo shorts that I just made, Heidi? Or did you find another cool pattern? What are you doing? Why are you saying how is the future, Ray? Did I miss something that the Spooky Dolly said? Oh, are you saying are you assuming that they're down under and it's morning there tomorrow? Ray's so smart, she probably is. All right, this sleeve is on the fold, and because the fabric's kind of thick, I'm not gonna cut 2 sleeves on the fold. That can get a little inaccurate. It's knit, but you know, come on. We have plenty of fabric. We're almost done. Let's stretch it out a little bit. There's not a nap to this fabric, I don't think. Oh, there is a nap to this fabric. Did I do my front and my back the same? It did, right? Hi, Penny, how's it going? Oh, it is, but the future's bright, yeah, but it's Friday for you. All right, so that being said, let's check. I forgot to check the nap. The nap is when you brush your fabric that it rubs. Doesn't feel like I have a nap there. Okay, yeah, it's so slight. So when I brush it this way, it's smoother. So it wants to go like this. We'll cut this one out and we'll flip the other piece of fabric over once we're done. Let me make this so complicated to cut out, right? Okay, yeah. I can feel the nap more when the fabric's like this. I don't see it though, I can just feel it. Can you guys see it? Huh. Just showing off. Oh, wow, Heidi. Good for you. That sounds awesome. Cutting this kind of wastefully, huh, with all this. Yeah, so I think because I'm trying to come up with my August calendar, that's what I've been thinking about. Like, well, what do I want to do? It is my 3-year anniversary. Not that it's a big deal, but it's kind of a fun thing to have for content, you know? And, yeah, I had this whole plan, and now I'm kind of like, I'm not trying to do something much different. The one thing I know for sure is I'm going to be doing a sponsored stream. I'm just going to cut this chunk off and then we're going to line it up better. For hearts, I asked them, I was like, hey, you know, it's my 3-year anniversary, and they've been with us pretty much since the get-go almost, you know, since like for 2 years. And I thought it would be fun to offer that to them. We haven't had a project from them in a bit. They were super down. I'm going to give you guys a nice discount code that week. I requested a knits pattern. That's why I was asking in my stories about what you guys recommended. And it didn't save all the recommendations. So yeah, I'm glad I took a glance at some of them because now I'm like, great. And I think the one thing I want to do, I felt like wouldn't be very entertaining, but then my Patreon Zoom on Tuesday was like, a couple people were like, no, that sounds really great. So one of my ideas is I have this really big pile now of garments that I don't know what to do with. Maybe something needs a little bit of tweaking. Maybe, you know, it doesn't, is this my other sleeve? Is it just laying here? Wow. Okay, fine. Maybe it doesn't fit me very good since I've gained weight this past year. Maybe I don't wear it, you know? Okay, so this one, the length grain goes this way. So let's just set this aside as scrap. So anyway, I have quite a big pile of clothes, and I just don't feel like all clothes are donatable, you know? And I kind of want to just go through and either make decisions, turn it into fabric, fix it so I can wear it, alter it so someone else can wear it, you know, things like that. And it's quite a pile now of my last few ready-to-wear garments in my wardrobe and some me-mades. So Delta's from New Zealand too. They were in here earlier. Is there a right way for the nap to go, or should it just match? It should just match, Penny. It's totally personal preference. See, once you did... Why? I have live chat. What wasps are we talking about? How did I miss this wasp talk? Oh, really, Sydney? That's awesome. I follow her. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I want to do, like, literally I have, like, yeah, it's quite a bit, you know. It's definitely my, you know, airing my dirty laundry type of thing. I'll do this on the fold. I need, I think the thing, it does seem like, well, why would that help someone, right? I think that's why I'm like, okay, I feel like someone would be like, oh, well, it's not my stuff I'm trying to fix, so the things that she does won't really apply to me, and that's why I'm kind of like, do I do it? But I do feel like a lot of us deal with a lot of these same things. You know, are you deciding to cut it into a quilt or fix it? Oh, okay. Penny's wasp. I miss Penny's. I miss what Penny said about wasps. Shoot. I hope you don't have those. All right. All right, so this one also gets some lining. I'm also going to cut one piece out of this, and I'm going to do it right side up. Do I want to do I might want to do this in lining. I kind of want to do it in one piece of lining and one piece of the outer fabric, you know? I wonder if that would be too thick. Maybe I could just do the lining. I have this lining that I got a long time ago, and it's a little stretchy, not much, but it doesn't matter because of where we're going to use it. Oh, wow, really? That's a bummer. So maybe a bunch of people are thinking about that. Oh, Ray, thank you. Yeah, maybe, I think like there's a theme right now that it's like, I don't know what it is about. I think August also has some themes for folks to do that. Yeah, this is a piece I drafted to go under the zipper to kind of protect the chest. It's just a nice little addition. It's a little thin though. You know, it's a little thin. I'm going to cut out two pieces and I'm going to cut out one out of the fleece. We'll have some options. I may end up cutting out a few of everything by Saturday just to try some different things out. Different zippers. All right. Let's do one of the collar out of this weird slimy stuff. Definitely feels like fabric you would never want to buy. And then you feel that like favorite garment and you're like, dang, when I really analyze that fabric in my favorite garment, it's really kind of gross. But it works so good. This is one of those. I bought it when I thought I was going to make a bra and it said this is what I needed. And then when I got it, I was like, heck no, am I using that stuff? I never made a bra either. I stuck with underwear. That looks crooked to me. I need to recut that piece. I think it's a little crooked. This is why I hate cutting things on the fold when they have a texture like that. Because one of them is, this side is good, that side's not. It's probably even more obvious on the camera. All right. I'm just going to cut this the same size, even though I know that you're supposed to cut it shorter. I'm just going to use this fabric because it's a little easier than using the paper. And we're going to work a lot on this at the sewing machine. Let's just get one more. Where's that piece that I didn't want to throw away? Here we go. Of this right here, this pattern piece here. And I think what I'm going to do is put the zipper, this shield, I'm going to put the right side towards the body like this. I'm just going to cut one. We may use it, we may not. I want options. And because it has the curve, it definitely has a right side and wrong side. Okay, now we're done. Oh, they had a, had people vote. That's cute. Yeah, there's a couple people I follow and I'm like, wow, I sew a lot, but I don't sew as much as they are. I have to be honest, I'd probably sew more without you guys. I feel like I'm not allowed to sew without you now. You don't want to wait, let's be a silly piece of clothing. Good point. All right, so let's see what we got. We're going to, here we go. We need still some, nope, it's this one. We still need to stabilize my slit here. And I'll just iron a piece of interfacing over this, probably, the whole slit there, and just cut it apart. I wanted to cut it while I was sitting here. All right, so then we'll have, you know, like this little... I just changed the blade like a week ago, Delta. I know, it feels really good to me too. I'm enjoying it. I was editing a video yesterday, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's not the blade I'm using now. I could tell I was not struggling, but it was definitely not as sharp. I don't, Lydia, see? If I do, it turns into a video. So, yeah, so I'm going to put a piece of interfacing around here. I'll probably just make it like 2 inches wide. Not even. I probably won't even do that much. Maybe an inch wide piece to straddle the slit. Stabilize it. Probably should have done it before I slit it. This is the little doohickey. Maybe I would want a black zipper. Black zipper could work, right? Right? That'd be so cute. Trixie! There you go, Sydney. You're naming me all Saremy? Oh, that's cute. You can name it Emmy. That's easier. That's what my parents call me. My whole family, except Michael. I can be kind of pokey like that sometimes. All right, so we have our sleeves, we have our back, we have our front. We have very few pattern pieces compared to what this pattern comes with. So hopefully you're down for this project. And maybe one day I will sew that Love Notions hoodie the way it's supposed to be sewn. Oops, here's my sleeves. A lot of work for just, you know, 5 pattern pieces, huh? 4, really. Cool. All right, so we're going to sew on Saturday, and I have slated it to be a complete sew through on Saturday, but I'm going to warn you, I might do a few experiments with this whole zipper opening. I'm probably going to cut out a few more just to play around with it and see how we think it would be best to sew it on our machines. I mean, it is nice. That's so cute. And so, yeah, so it'll be an experimental Saturday. I haven't sewn these in a really long time. I used to do this for prototypes, but it's been a while. And machines have changed. Machines were different. What we had to us was different, so. Cool. All right, well, that's it. That's it for today. I will see you Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific. And I hope you guys are all doing good. Someone asked how the fire is here. It's really bad, but we're safe. We're totally safe. It is smoky here. But yeah. So far we're feeling good. I wasn't feeling good the first few weeks, but now I feel really good. They're doing such an amazing job, but there are people who've lost their homes. It's really sad. Little communities I've never even heard of. They're way out there. I was asking my husband, I'm like, where do they even shop? And I guess Quincy would be their town. There's a couple thousand people there. So I think about them every day. But yeah, we're doing good. We're fine. The shadows on the ground, or the light on the ground, is orange. Have you guys ever seen that? When it's like when there's a fire and the sun shines through, and so like the dogs are like laying in a sun patch, but it's orange. It's like, oh, it's not the same, you know. All right, you guys. Well, I'll see you Saturday. Thanks for coming. This will be fun. So our fake Patagonia quarter zip. Oh, good luck, Lynn. Oh, she's coming to a sleepover for you. Easy. Popcorn and a movie. You got this. Bake something together. I'm sure you have a ton of ideas. I don't know, like go fix something in the garage, you know, make a little woodworking project. I mean, there's like all kinds of things. I mean, I don't know how old she is, but you'll do good. That's probably not what you're worried about, huh? You probably want luck in the sleeping through the night thing. It's only one night, right? Yay, Sydney! Congrats! That's great. That's awesome. Great news. You're welcome, Sue. Nice to see you. If you said hi earlier, I didn't see you. Sorry. Yay, Sydney! Well, I hope you feel better soon then, Sydney, since you have a cold. Yeah. 8 and 5. Oh, 2 of them. Aw, have fun. I mean, I don't envy you. But have fun. All right, you guys. I'll see you Saturday. Take care. Bye. Thanks for the donations. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.